alcoholic. So I want to start with this. If you've never been to a Foundations meeting before, this is a presentation that takes about 45 minutes of our program, and or 45 minutes of our time tonight. And, you know, a lot of times when people get to Alcoholics Anonymous, they hear steps, they hear this, they hear that, and they don't know what the hell anybody's talking about. So we try and help people understand alcoholism a little bit better, help them to understand what the doctor's opinion is a little bit better, and some of the things that we read. So tonight we're going to hit several hot spots in the book, and a lot of the things that we hit might only be one sentence or two sentences. So it's very short and concise, and we'll give you direction and we will give you time in order to be able to do that. So as soon as Gandalf gets back to his chair, we will go ahead and...
Hey, get started. I'm listening.
Okay, very good. So we might be small tonight, but we're glad you're here. Lisa, did you answer my question? Can you read?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, because you know the drill on this, and especially when we get to the promises, because we got a real fun way of doing the promises.
Oh, cool.
I promise you, it's gonna be a lot of fun, you know.
I've never done this before, Jamie, but just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Well, your sponsor's here; she can tell you what to do.
All right.
We probably both will. So it takes us about 45 minutes to run through this. Lisa and Gandalf, you stay unmuted, and when we get to the other side, I think all of you will find it very interesting. Trish, you want to kick it off?
Sure. For our readers, please speak slowly and be close to your microphone, because we do record this and put it onto our podcast in audio only, no visual, no pictures, just our voices, so that we can share it on our website and our podcast and our YouTube channel. Good evening and welcome to our bi-monthly Foundations meeting of the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. We are glad you are here. My name is Trish and I am an alcoholic.
And good evening, family. My name is Jamie. I am a very grateful recovered alcoholic and glad to have you all with us. And I'm going to do a quick screen share here. And let's go ahead and open this up with our set-aside prayer. God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps, the big book, the meetings, my disease. But most especially, God, please set aside everything I think I know about you, so that I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth.
And our preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
And I think when we do this in February, we'll do the 1940s preamble just for giggles. Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group Mission Statement: to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous through our group, to carry the message of the Big Book to treated and untreated alcoholics and help them find the spiritual solution outlined in the basic text and join the first 100 to become recovered. There is no cure for alcoholism, but we can become recovered with the AA Big Book and 1940s style sponsorship. That is the purpose of this group. May you join us on the road of happy destiny.
So, from the preface, Because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left largely untouched.
We want them to know what alcoholism is, what the solution is, and how to take the action that is necessary to avoid death or insanity by drinking. For example, how to get from the problem to the solution.
Now, turn to the foreword to the first edition. And I'm going to start with Lisa. So you'll go to page XIII, which was first published in 1939 and was introduced by stating, and Lisa, can you please read the entire first paragraph and then we will dissect it.
1 second for Donald's benefit. When we go to dissecting Donald, we will segue back and forth between you and Lisa. Okay, Lisa.
Okay, forward to the first edition. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
Now, please reread the first line, Lisa.
We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seamless, hopeless state of mind and body.
Thank you. The first sentence tells us who authored the basic text for Alcoholics Anonymous.
Thank you. And bringing Gandalf onto the scene. Gandalf, would you kindly read the second line, please?
To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book.
The second sentence tells us why they went to the trouble to publish the basic text.
And Lisa, read the third line, please.
For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary.
Nailed it.
I did not do that on purpose. The third sentence suggests the big book is all we will ever need to be successful in sobriety.
Donald, please read the fourth and fifth lines.
Okay.
We think.
We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend the alcoholic is a very sick person.
The fourth and fifth sentences tells us that the big book is also for those who care about us.
And Lisa, the sixth line, please.
And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
The sixth sentence is supported by the fact that the big book has given birth to over 200 anonymous fellowships that have nothing to do with drinking.
And depending on what edition you happen to have in your hand tonight, folks, our Roman numeral pages come from the fourth edition. If you happen to be in a third edition, they will be one page earlier. So, from page XIV, the only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking, traditions 3 and 5. We have lost our understanding of honest by the time we decide to come to AA, so that the requirement has been eliminated. But if a person is serious about living sober, they'd better have an honest desire to stop drinking and be willing to follow the directions in the Big Book.
And the foreword to the second edition gives a historical account of the first 20 years of our history. How Bill found Dr. Bob, how they got busy looking for other alcoholics to try to help, how their success attracted the attention of some of our leading citizens, how we received some very favorable publicity, Jack Alexander's article, for example, and how the onslaught of new prospects forced Bill to develop the traditions. And then we hammer out the statement on page XX.
Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder of those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed. So, about 75% plus got sober and remained that way. In the early 1940s, the Cleveland groups were running at a 92% success rate due to using Big Book sponsorship.
Then Bill published the 12 and 12 in 1953, and by 1965 our success rate had dropped to 50%. Unfortunately, many newcomers are encouraged to try to use the 12 and 12 as their source of directions. Bill W. was the principal author of the Big Book and the sole author of the 12 and 12. On page 17 of the 12 and 12, Bill stated, "The book, Alcoholics Anonymous, has become the basic text of the fellowship, and it still is. This present volume proposes to broaden and deepen the understanding of the 12 steps as first written in earlier work." By saying this, Bill indicates that the directions for the 12 steps are only in the Big Book, not in the 12 and 12.
Now here's where we're fixing to get into what some of the things are that have happened in Alcoholics Anonymous. Then in the late 60s, we started discussion participation meetings that failed to stick with our singleness of purpose. So by 1980, we had dropped to 33%. The result of which is we started ignoring the practice of focusing on our solution, and we drifted into group therapy. For recent years, our success rate has decreased to what appears to be less than 5% for those finding as much as 5 years of sobriety.
While there has been dramatic change in our fellowship, the program has remained unchanged. Consequently, the 4th edition reads the same as the 1st edition.
So let's go to page 30, and Donald, we're going to kick it off with you and give you guys a second to get there.
Page 30?
Page 30, it's going to be in the middle.
Not XXX.
No, that's in the doctor's opinion. Oh, yeah, throw me off. Middle paragraph, 2 sentences, starting with "we learned."
We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step of recovery.
Thank you. In our heart of hearts, we must know that we are victims of a killer disease before we can begin recovery.
Now for Lisa, we're going to return back to the doctor's opinion. On page XXVII, I'll give you a minute to get there. And if you could read the first 2 paragraphs where it starts out, "The doctor writes."
Hold on. Okay, XXVI, the doctor. What was it?
XXVII. The doctor writes.
Starts with the subject.
It's on XXVII on the 4th edition.
Okay. The doctor writes, the subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction.
One more
I
sentence.
say more?
One more, yep.
I say this after many years' experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction.
We identify who Dr. Silkworth was and how he wound up at Towns Hospital, how his opinion opened the doors for recovery. Until we understand a problem, we cannot find a solution. I use an example of walking out to my car and putting the key in the ignition and the damn thing won't start. Problem. I could sit on my butt and talk about the car not starting until hell freezes over, but that will get me nowhere. I look under the hood and I see the battery cable is corroded. I know what the problem is. So the solution becomes very evident. I need a new battery cable, but that still doesn't solve my problem. I still must take the action necessary to obtain a new cable, replace the bad one, and now I'm on my way. Understand the problem, know what the solution is, and take the action to make the solution a reality.
And Donald's turn. And we're going to XXVIII. And from the first paragraph on that page, we present the allergy, which makes us powerless over alcohol. So Donald, please read that first sentence starting with "we believe."
We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker.
The phenomenon of craving, which is the manifestation of the allergy.
And the last paragraph on page XXVIII is where we find the initial information regarding the unmanageability. The alcoholic mind cannot distinguish the truth from the false. Read the whole paragraph, Lisa. Would you do that, please, starting with men and women drink?
Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented. Unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity, after they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery.
We carefully dissect the whole paragraph. First, what is the effect alcoholic men and women get from drinking alcohol?
Why is it so important that we have this spiritual event occur in our lives? Well, Dr. Silkworth said that we drink essentially because we like the effect produced by alcohol. What is the effect an alcoholic gets from drinking? When we alcoholics had a few drinks, we were amazed at the change in the way we thought and the way we felt. a few drinks produced an entire psychic change?
Let's go to page 83. Here's where it gets fun now. In the big book, and examine the 9th step promises. And what we're going to do here is we are going to begin each promise with the phrase, when I had a few drinks. Read each line in the first person in the past tense. For example, the first promise would be, when I had a few drinks, I was painstaking about this phase of my development, and I was amazed before I was halfway through. So, Gandalf, let's kick it off with you and the next promise, starting with when I had a few drinks.
When I had a few drinks, we are painstaking about this phase of our development. We will be amazed before we are halfway through. Like that?
Yeah. Only read the next promise.
Oh. When we had a few, we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness.
Did you?
I sure did. Lisa, come on in with the next one.
When I had a few drinks, I did not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it.
Did you ever come out of a blackout in a place you hadn't planned on visiting, with people you hadn't planned on being with, and learned you had done some things you sure wish you hadn't done?
Oh, yes.
Because of the guilt and remorse, it was to be a secret, and then go into a bar, have a few drinks, and tell some stranger the whole story.
I certainly did.
Yep.
And Gandalf, the next one, please.
Comprehend.
When I had a few drinks, we will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace.
Did you too find that serenity and peace of mind replaced the turmoil with a few drinks?
Oh, yeah. Lisa, next one.
When I had a few drinks, no matter how far down the scale I have gone, I will see how my experience can benefit others.
How willing were you to share your whole life story with a poor drunk who had just had a really bad experience?
I love to talk about how bad my life was.
Mm-hmm.
And Gandalf?
And when I had a few drinks, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. I didn't care no more.
With a few drinks, did you feel that you just might really have a purpose in this world and feel sorry for those critters that didn't have what you had, although you weren't too sure what it was that you had?
Almost every time. Lisa?
Yeah. When I had a few drinks, I will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in my fellows.
Did a few drinks make you a little more interested in people, especially of the opposite sex?
Can I buy you a drink, honey? Gandalf?
When I had a few drinks, self-seeking slipped away.
Did a few drinks make you somewhat generous?
Drinks for everyone!
Lisa?
Lisa?
When I had a few drinks, my whole attitude and outlook upon life changed.
Did a few drinks take you from a gray, gloomy day to one that was bright and hopeful?
Absolutely.
From a shade of brown to rosy pink with just a couple.
Yeah.
You're a go.
Did we do fear?
You're on fear.
I'm getting into the festivities of this thing. So
It's a blast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I like it. Am I doing fear?
Yes.
Yes.
When I had a few drinks, fear of people and of economic insecurity left me.
Did you enjoy being in the company of people sober?
Leave me alone.
Did a few drinks diminish your concern for your financial difficulties?
Oh, how am I going to pay these bills? I think I better have a couple of drinks to figure it out.
Lisa?
When I had a few drinks, I intuitively knew how to handle situations which used to baffle me.
Did you two find that you were able to think much more clearly and wisely with a few drinks?
You bet. I had answers to questions that hadn't even been asked.
Don't put your books away yet, guys. The unmanageability is clearly presented in the last sentence of that paragraph.
I will suddenly realize that booze is doing for me what I could not do for myself.
From the article, Ways to Stop Drinking, you can get some ideas of how we apply the information Dr. Silkworth proposed.
The newcomer is also reminded that they need to be mindful of over-the-counter meds, such as cough syrup, mouthwash, flavor extracts, etc., and that their healthcare providers should know they are alcoholics, so the professionals will be mindful of what they prescribe. We emphasize that they themselves are responsible for their sobriety, so be honest with those who have a need to know. We should also all be aware of supplements and the ingredients listed. Just because it says it's healthy doesn't mean it's safe for us. Some of the ingredients may trigger the craving. Some supplements do contain alcohol as a soluble base. No matter how long we have been sober, alcohol in any form can be deadly. It can be very easy to over-medicate when self-medicating.
We have now helped the newcomers to understand the problem. We may now breeze through Bill's story by looking at the events that describe the progression of alcoholism in his life. So let's turn to page 2. And I think we ended with Lisa. So Donald, we will kick it off with you. Page 2, it's going to be one sentence, middle of the first paragraph, approximately 10 lines down, one sentence, and it's going to say, though my, that's what it's going to start.
Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife.
Lois is on his ass about his drinking. I'm glad you're such a quick study, my friend.
And Lisa, going to the bottom of page 3, it's the last full sentence, starting with I began.
I began to be jittery in the morning.
Bill was beginning to feel the jitters in the morning.
And let's move over to page 5. And Gandalf, it will be the first sentence, liquor ceased.
Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity.
Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity. He's lying about his drinking, hiding his bottles, etc.
And Lisa, a little further down page 5 to the third paragraph, and you're going to read 4 sentences starting with then I got.
Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at a low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and that chance vanished.
Bill lost an opportunity to make some money because he drank.
Remaining on page 5, fourth paragraph, 4 sentences, Donald, starting with I woke.
I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could take so much as one drink. I was through forever. Before then,
No, that's it.
Oh.
Thank you. 4 short sentences, I should have said. He made up his mind to never touch another drop.
And finishing out page 5, Lisa, the 5th sentence, or the 5th paragraph, 3 sentences starting with shortly afterward.
Shortly afterward, I came home drunk. There had been no fight, Where had been my high resolve?
Bill returned home drunk.
Now let's move along to page 7. And Gandalf, it is going to be the end of the first full paragraph, one sentence starting with best of all.
Best of all, I met a kind of doctor who explained that though certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill, bodily and mentally.
Bill met Dr. Silkworth and learned what was wrong with him.
And Lisa, on page 8, in the first paragraph, 4 sentences starting with the word quicksand.
Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master.
Bill surrendered to the problem. Step 1.
Or as I like to say, I was alcohol's bitch. Gandalf, the next one is, we read the next paragraph to exemplify the simplicity of our program. First sentence, starting with trembling.
Trembling, I stepped from the hospital a broken man.
Perfect. Now go to the last sentence, if you will. I was to know
happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way that life is incredibly more wonderful as time passes.
Thank you. A wonderful life is a result of having taken the action Ebby prescribed for him.
And Lisa, flipping over to page 10, you're going to read the last paragraph in page 10 and the first paragraph in page 11. And you're starting with that second sentence in that last paragraph. When they talked.
When they talked of a God personal to me, who was love, superhuman strength and direction, I became irritated and my mind snapped shut against such a theory. To Christ I conceded the certainty of a great man, not too closely followed by those who claimed him. His moral teaching, most excellent. For myself, I had adopted those parts which seemed convenient and not too difficult. The rest I disregarded.
Bill's rebellion at the idea of a spiritual solution, identifying him as a hard-nosed agnostic.
Now, let's move to page 12. And Donald, it is going to be second paragraph, 2 sentences, starting with my friend.
My friend suggested what then seemed a novel idea. He said, "Why don't you choose your own conception of God?"
Thank you. God, I say this in meetings all the time when we talk about step 3 too. The freedom and responsibility we are given to develop an idea of God that we can begin to bet our lives on.
We then explained the simplicity of step 2 by the fact that Bill saw his old drinking buddy, who was supposedly in the nut house for alcoholic insanity, sober. Both of them had been powerless over alcohol, but Ebby was sober and Bill was going to die. Ebby had found the power that Bill was unaware of. Ebby gave Bill hope, the beginning of coming to believe. From that hope, Bill finally became willing to try Ebby's plan of action. Again, the idea of step 2.
Now let's move into page 13. I think it's still Donald's turn. I could be wrong. Let's do the first paragraph, first sentence, at the hospital.
At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time.
Thank you. Now, this is powerful. I'm just going to, what I'm saying ain't part of the script, but this is powerful, what's about to come. And for anybody who's new, who's struggling, who goes through constant relapse, this is important. entering Towns Hospital on December 11th, 1934, going into DTs, taking step 3 on the 3rd day of his sobriety, Ebby visiting him in the hospital on the 4th and 5th days to help Bill take the action Ebby learned to apply in his life, the result of which was a spiritual experience. Bill left the hospital on December 18th, 1934, and at the end of 7 days, and lived 36 years without taking another drink. We are here because of the action that Bill took, not the meetings he attended.
Want to repeat that last sentence?
We are here because of the action that Bill took, not the meetings he attended.
Yep.
Now, you want to know why? Because there weren't any meetings then.
We now identify the meaning of step 1, powerless, because of the allergy. Unmanageability, due to the mind that cannot remember that we have the allergy. It can only remember the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks.
Let me.
Middle of the paragraph.
Relieving the feeling of restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness. Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked.
Therefore, we are powerless over our body and powerless over our mind where alcohol is concerned. We are screwed.
Yes, we are. Lisa, it is your turn. Let's turn to page 24. And in the second paragraph, read the squiggly writing, please.
The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense after the first drink.
Damn the bad luck.
And since Gandalf stepped away, you can get the next part, which is page 43.
He's back.
He's back. Okay, Donald, page 43.
Is that anything like movie 43?
Could be.
No. I got pieces of my book that I gotta find.
Oh, like it. We have books like that too.
Okay, found it. Okay, what
The
part of
last
43?
paragraph, starting with once more. Read the whole paragraph.
Which paragraph?
Once
Last
more.
one.
Oh, the very last one.
Starts with once more.
Oh, yeah. You mean the one that I've got
Yes.
cited?
The pink
Okay,
one.
once more. The alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. Neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power.
Absolutely.
And we would like to thank both of you for reading tonight. That completes your reading participation, but we're not done yet. I know, hey, it's okay. You can come back and do this meeting anytime you want. From the hope of hearing a recovered alcoholic tell their story of what they were like, what happened, and what they are like now, or reading the 44 personal stories in the Big Book, is the beginning of step 2. If lack of power is the problem, then a power greater than ourselves must be the solution. And we see that the recovered alcoholic has found that power. It takes no great mind to see that if lack of power or powerlessness is my problem, then a power greater than myself must be the solution. Once I can see that, I am faced with a very simple decision. Am I or am I not willing to follow the clear-cut directions for recovery? But I need someone who knows how to do this, aka a sponsor.
So the simplicity of step 3 is to turn my will and my life over to the care of the God of my understanding. I learn how to turn my will and my life over to this power by taking steps 4 through 7. But I need someone, or a sponsor, who has a working knowledge of the steps, of taking the steps as directed in the Big Book, who can guide me through this process.
To determine if you've made a good choice in sponsors, it's pretty easy to tell. If they suggest that you open your Big Book or offer to read with you from page XI and study to page 43, that is a good start in diagnosing step 1. These 51 pages will get you ready to see if you are ready to move on. Look at the first sentence on page 44.
In the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made the clear distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic.
It tells us why it is so important to be thorough in your study to this point. From this study, we can separate the alcoholic from the non-alcoholic, which is so vital to the success of your group and AA as a whole.
Now, take the test. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely,
How many of you have promised you'd never do it again? It appears you have failed to manage the decision, so your life is unmanageable where alcohol is concerned.
or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take.
Over the amount you take, how many of you cannot start drinking without getting drunk? It would appear that you too are powerless over alcohol. Step 1.
If that is the case, you may be suffering from an illness.
Chronic alcoholism of the hopeless variety.
Which only a spiritual experience will conquer.
How many meetings must you attend to have a spiritual experience? Or how many steps must you take in order to have this blessed promise become a reality in your life?
Page 44 through page 57 will open the door for you to be able to consider your own conception of the God of your understanding.
Page 58 answers that stupid comment we hear too often in meetings. I don't know how it works, man. The first sentence tells us how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. In other words, we need to follow clear-cut directions in the Big Book.
The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is a spiritual program. On page 59, we will find the first of several prayers. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. There are one or more prayers for each and every step from step 3 through step 12, which reminds us that the God of our understanding is the source of our recovery. We learn to invite him to be the solution to all our problems.
On page 62, we are told that our real problem is selfishness and self-centeredness, but we can never see it without having some method of revealing the truth to us. So we make a decision to do precisely what our sponsor suggests and announce that decision in the prayer prayed on page 63. This prayer is the invitation to God to come into our lives.
One of the beautiful things about the Big Book is it will tell us when to take a step, how to take the step, what the results or promises of having taken that step will be, and provides us with the prayers that make certain we are inviting the God of our understanding to be very involved in our recovery.
The last sentence on page 63 tells us we now have to get busy and take the rest of the steps.
Steps 4 and 5 are diagnostic steps to learn if what they told us on page 62
Selfishness and self-centeredness
is true for us. The clear-cut directions for step 4 are found from pages 64 through 71, and there are 5 prayers for step 4.
On page 75, we find the clear-cut directions for step 5 and the 2 fifth-step prayers.
On page 76, we find the direction for step 6, which is nothing more than a commitment to God that we will become students and practitioners of the rest of the Big Book, and there we will find the 6th step prayer.
On page 76, we will find the 7th step prayer, which is to be prayed after we have done our part of steps 4 through 6. Now we ask God to please do your part by making me different. This prayer is the completion of the prayer we started on page 63. This is where we find the Amen and finish the prayer. This is a cycle of 5 steps which started with the 3rd step prayer and ends with the 7th step prayer.
And also on page 76, we will be most pleased to learn that if we have carefully followed the directions in taking step 4, that step 8 is all but a done deal.
From page 76 to page 83 are the directions for taking step 9, and the 4 ninth step prayers are there.
Having carefully followed the path the first 100 laid down for us, we have now had a spiritual awakening or experience and have joined the first 100 as recovered alcoholics. The 9th step promises describe that blessed event.
On page 64, we take the first action to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. By the time we get to page 83, we have recovered. We have joined the first 100. We have been given the power that we lack to survive alcoholism. Carefully following the clear-cut directions outlined in just 20 pages of our basic text produces the miracle of recovery.
We are now to start our spiritual growth, and that occurs in steps 10, 11, and 12.
The clear-cut directions for step 10 are contained in the paragraph on page 84, beginning with, "This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory."
A running start for learning how to communicate with the God of your understanding is very adequately covered on pages 87, 86, 87, and 88.
And now that we have received the power, it is our primary job to pass on to the next newcomer God puts in our life. The clear-cut directions for sponsorship are contained in chapter 7. Hang on one second. Excuse me. But you won't find the 12-step prayer until you have reached the last page of the basic text. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick.
And there you have it. So utterly simple, yet so garbled in our meetings. I challenge you to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. The simplest guide that I follow in working with others is, if it isn't in the Big Book, they don't need to be exposed to it.
If you are encouraged to wait until you have a better understanding of what our program is all about, I have one question for you. How well did you like sex before you tried it? Well, you won't know a damn thing about recovery either until you have taken the action of taking the steps precisely as they were given it to us. And that is a foundations meeting, ladies and gentlemen. So now the floor is open for questions, comments, observations, spiritual experience.
Yes, Donald.
Hi, my name's Donald, and I'm a grateful alcoholic. You know, whenever we read the last sentence, that suddenly realized that, you know, the promises, you know, whenever we read it as when I was drinking, you know, we suddenly realized that alcohol was doing for me, for us, and he says, what we could not do for ourselves. But I realized that alcohol was doing for me what I thought God was not.
Bam. I like that. That's solid.
So it takes a while and stuff, you know, to get the spiritual side of God through this program. But I'm so glad that, you know, I had that awakening, and I'm glad. One of the things I'm grateful for today.
The Chambers Brothers. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad.
And you know what's really weird though is that I was just reading something that I had highlighted on page 84 below the promises. It says, "We have entered the world of the Spirit." Oh.
We have.
You guys weren't even looking at what I was doing. I went,
Oh, well, hey, you know, that head explosion.
Jump aside. She's laughing. Hey, Pajama, welcome. I wish you could have got here earlier. 2 weeks from now, you doing another one? Or
No.
Next month? No.
The next one of this will be done in February.
Okay, February.
But it will be on our podcast.
Yes. So I think I'm gonna get together with one of my sponsees and have him listen. Like, whoa.
You know, here again, if you do that and you have your big book, he has a big book, and go to these pages, all of a sudden, it's one of those things that helps the book come to life.
Yeah.
I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Trish.
And just kind of tagging on what Jamie said, you know, I always struggled when working with new people about where to find different things in the book because I never had a sponsor who really got me into the book. But after being in the foundations meeting the first 2 or 3 times I listened to it, and then starting to participate by being a reader, and then really as helping present it, I'm not going to say I can say some of these spots in my head, but one of my other sponsees and I, every now and then as we're talking, something will go on. There's a problem. Yeah, I know what the problem is. I just aren't doing it. And I'll look at her and she'll look at me. It's like, yep, battery cable. And bringing it all right back to what's in the study. And you know, the study does bring the book, the foundations does bring the book alive because it does point out all those spots in the book that I can take, I can look at, I can read. And then once I'm familiar with them, I can bring all the new folks that I work with right back to these pages. Because it does show Bill's progression down into the pits and then his progression on his way back into that new life. That, thankfully, we have the book now to show us what he did so that we can do it and show it to other people. But if I'm not in the book, I can't show it to them.
True story. For those who know me, my favorite thing to do while I'm driving down the road is have somebody that I'm working with, doesn't matter if it's sponsee, grand sponsee, or you're somebody else's sponsee, but if you'll call me and read to me, just like this has breaks in it, I'll help break it down for that person to understand a little bit better. Because, it was all Yiddish to me when I got here. But, I've had some great teachers along the way. So that's been part of the blessing of all of it. And it truly is my favorite thing to do. No doubt about it.
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa, you can just come on in.
Yeah, Jamie, yeah. How many times, I've called and you've done that exact thing with me. And got me out of a lot of stuff I had going on in my head. And also, you mentioned, it wasn't the meetings, it's the book. And that was my problem for I don't know how many years. I just went to the meetings. I never picked up the big book. I had one, it sat on my shelf. I got the mess. That's, the drunkalogs, the speaker meetings, and, but, this time around, I am just so grateful, and, the willingness and to start doing what the book says, and everybody that, it's people God put in my path, and it's just, it blows me away. And, so many times I wish I did this sooner, but you know what? I got it when I was ready, I guess, and it's really great, and I just know a little, and I just look forward to learning more and more and more, and being able to help other people. And I don't know what I was so afraid of, just the unknown, I guess. And but it's so much easier than dealing with relapses and that awful thinking and all that stuff, the spiritual malady that just kept me away and isolated and irritable and discontent. I'd take this any day over that. I just don't want it anymore, and I don't need it. And I'm just really grateful tonight. And thanks, guys. It's a great meeting.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for your participation.
Hi, Steve.
Oh,
Hi,
Steve's back. Hi, brother.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm out. I'm out in my vehicle, puffing on my cigar, Jamie. Just puffing on my cigar and listening. So I'm glad I'm here. And just for me, it took me 21 years. I've been coming around for 42 years, and it took me 21 years of doing it my way until I was introduced to the book. And I liked how you talked about the meetings in Cleveland seem to have a 92%, I think you said 92% success rate. I attend 3 Big Book meetings out of Cleveland every week, one on Tuesday night and 2 on Thursday night. And one of the meetings out there is the longest continuous, still going on today meetings. It's called the Borton Group, Borton, and they just celebrated their 85th year of being in existence. And I really enjoy going out there because they give a lot of historical context to it, and they really stress the book. And when I say, you know, I'm up in the Northeast, and Lisa is up here too. And when you say I identify as a recovered alcoholic / drug addict, and people ask me, "Oh, what do you mean you're cured?" No, it doesn't mean I'm cured. I have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. Today I have hope. I have recovered from the obsession of the mind, and because I don't put the substance in me, I can instigate and start the phenomena of craving, the abnormal reaction, the allergic reaction. And there's a part of the doctor's opinion you guys went over tonight that when I got into the book, I could not believe how this part of the doctor's opinion spoke to me, because I was a constant relapser. And where it says that this pattern is repeated over and over, and I like to paraphrase, over and over and over and over again. And unless this person experiences an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. And then a few sentences later, they give us a little hint where they say, and we also believe that in order for this person to experience an entire psychic change, something more than human power is needed. And that told me that a sponsor can't create the entire psychic change. None of you, although it would be nice if you could, but something more than human power, which I started to get a little hint. And somebody read tonight, I wrote my name right in the beginning of the sentence where it says, "Steve, you may be suffering from an illness in which only a spiritual experience will conquer." One of the most beautiful things that I read is on top of page 20. There are a couple of people that impressed upon it to me, was where it says, "Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others." I call it CTO, our constant thought of others, and how we may help meet their needs. And they don't mean in a codependent way. They just talk about, for me, being of service to others. And they don't have to be in AA, but, working with others in AA has become a big component in my recovery. And I love in the 10-step promises where it says that as long as I stay in fit spiritual condition, I will rarely or seldom be interested in alcohol. And because I do this and I try to stay in fit spiritual condition, I haven't had a serious thought of a drink in over 4 years. And, in January, if I'm still alive, God will. I had 6.5 years of sobriety one time. I had 8 years another time. And God willing, in January, I'll have 12 years. But in the last 4 years, I've been attending that 7 a.m. meeting. And that's made such a difference in my life. We talk about it. I've read this hundreds of times where it says being rocketed into this fourth dimension. Well, all I know is that my recovery has been rocketed into a very different dimension that it was in all the other years. So it's good to be here, and thank you for what you and Trish and everybody else do here. Thank you.
You as well, brother. And hey, hopefully we see you in a few days.
Yeah.
my recording saved to the wrong place, Trish, so that's why I asked. And we have, folks, we have Big Book study tomorrow night, so please feel free to come and join us. Bring a friend, bring yourself, bring a frenemy, bring a whole bunch of frenemies.
Gemma, that's 4:30 our time.
Okay.
Chris just